Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here for today's presentation titled Supportive Housing Options, Pathways to Stability and Independence. My name is Melanie McGacken, and I'm representing the Rutgers Community Living Education Project team, often referred to as CLEP. Rutgers CLEP supports individuals with intellectual and/or developmental disabilities, as well as their families and the professionals who assist them in creating lives filled with opportunity and choice. Whether a person is looking to self-direct or explore provider-managed residential options, our team offers education, training, and resources to explore the various opportunities available for community living. We recognize that every person's situation is unique, and we take a person-centered approach to providing you the assistance that you need when and how you need it. The CLEP team contacts will be shared at the end of today's presentation, so feel free to give us a call if we can assist you in exploring community living options. Before we get started, let's go over how you can best participate in today's virtual event. To ensure the highest sound quality possible, all attendees will initially be muted at the start of the presentation. This session is a wonderful opportunity to learn about the supportive housing options. So we encourage you to ask any questions that you may have, share your experiences, and just engage during today's presentation with the other attendees. You can do this by using a Q&A icon on your screen to connect with either Kate or myself, or use the chat feature on your Zoom control panel to connect with the other attendees. It's my pleasure to now introduce today's speaker, Kate Kelly, representing the Supportive Housing Association of New Jersey. The CLEP team is grateful that Kate is here to share her valuable insight of supportive housing options. So please join me in giving a warm virtual welcome. Kate, thank you for being here. I will hand the presentation over to you.
Hi, Melanie. Thank you. And thank you for this opportunity to present to your group. As Melanie said, I'm here representing the Supportive Housing Association of New Jersey. We are a statewide membership organization. We are a nonprofit. We've been around since 1998, and we have about 110 member organizations. Our members represent service providers serving folks with a variety of disabilities and barriers, for-profit and nonprofit housing developers, collegial, other, membership groups and trades associations in the state, and vendors, attorneys, architects, companies like banks that are all part of the supportive housing industry here in our state. We work with the mission to promote and maintain a strong supportive housing industry in New Jersey, serving people with special needs. This slide, I think, does a nice job of showing who some of our members are. You can see we have banks, we have state agencies that fund supportive housing work, for-profit and nonprofit developers, nonprofit service providers, and some architects as well. So what is supportive housing? It really is both. In New Jersey, we like to think of it as a philosophy and a model of community housing with support services that help people with disabilities live as independently as possible. And the independence piece is really important. Tenants live in affordable housing with individualized resources and the services they need to remain independent and to stay both physically and mentally healthy. In New Jersey, a variety of populations need supportive housing, and actually not just in New Jersey, but around the US and around the world. Individuals living in supportive housing could have experienced homelessness, could have an intellectual or developmental diagnosis, mental illness. They could be recovering from addiction. They could be aging. They could be veterans. They could have been involved previously with the justice system, or they may be very low income or have a physical disability and or be victims of domestic violence. We're very proud of our housing hub on our website. And, when I'm done with my presentation, I can put a link to this in the chat. We have a variety of housing resources on the hub. This is what it looks like, the housing hub page on our website. And we really developed it to encourage individuals and families to help establish a home that promotes the utmost independence. The resources cover a variety of issues spanning from how to find housing, develop housing, supportive services, and more. We hope this housing hub will be a resource to all of you. You can share it widely. And if you have recommendations for a resource that would be helpful to add to the hub, we hope you'll reach out to us and let us know. The New Jersey Council on Developmental Disabilities was instrumental in funding to develop this page. And you can see on the right, we have a housing guide that's available online. There are limited printed copies also available. The Council on Developmental Disabilities can send anyone who's interested a copy. We have a new aging and supportive housing guide that I developed, which I'll be talking about briefly, some housing videos that we'll take a look at. One of them, housing resource bulletins, a resource guide, information about the housing navigators that work around the state that are available to help you, other resources, and municipal funding data. I'm going to talk a little bit about our aging and supportive housing guide. This is what the printed copy looks like, but we also have it available digitally on our website. We developed this guide so that individuals who are aging would like more varied, because we know that individuals who are aging would like more varied housing options and communities to live in. And supportive housing really provides opportunities for cities and towns to fulfill affordable housing obligation and strengthen their communities and provide supportive housing for a variety of populations. We want cities and towns, when they are thinking of developing affordable housing and meeting their requirements that come under the latest round A4 of the affordable housing legislation in the state, we want communities to be thinking of not just creating affordable housing for the population that's 55 and over, but thinking about how they can create communities, supportive housing communities where maybe an aging population could live with an ID or DD population, or a population that's experienced homelessness. You may have heard about it. It's kind of hard to listen or read the news and not hear about it these days. But New Jersey passed really landmark affordable housing legislation last spring. Shaw was very proud to be with our fellow advocates, including Fair Share Housing Center, that really led this effort in getting this legislation passed. This new legislation really allows us to look ahead for the next 2 years. Cities and towns can think about a variety of supportive housing to include in their affordable housing plans. They can develop new supportive housing to meet the needs of mixed populations. And as I said before, they can include a variety of populations. Now, this supportive housing being developed won't serve, the short-term needs of a individual or family that needs a housing opportunity right now, but we are hearing from the developers and service providers that are in our membership that municipalities are reaching out to those who create supportive housing, and they want to include supportive housing units for the IDDD population in those developments. Developers get a bonus credit in their applications for funding when they include supportive housing units. And so there's an incentive there to get supportive housing units included in this broader affordable housing development that's happening. This is just one example of a project. It's in Bergen County, Osprey Point Apartments. You can see what the total development cost was, that it was new construction, 85 homes were created, and this development serves a population that some folks are, all low income, some are 55 and over, and some have an IDDD diagnosis. Here's one more. This was a redeveloped project in Montvale, again in Bergen County. 14 homes were created. This development includes 10 affordable one-bedroom apartments for the population that is aging, and also a 4-bedroom group home for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. It was developed by Bergen County's United Way and Madeline Housing Partners. They've been a long-time great member of SHA, and they've developed a lot of projects that incorporate an aging population and a population with intellectual and developmental disabilities. We're very fortunate here in New Jersey that there are a number of housing models. These can be individual apartments, shared living, group homes, intensive specialized group homes, and living with family and receiving in-home supports. And these pictures try to show a variety of the housing options that are available. One of the resources that we think will, be of interest to folks on this call in our housing hub, and I'll put a link into this, is our affordable housing bulletin, which really outlines for folks what affordable housing looks like in New Jersey. When you think about how supportive housing gets financed, it's really a three-legged stool. We need the capital financing, the operating dollars, and the support funding. So the capital funding in New Jersey comes through our New Jersey Housing and Mortgage Finance Agency, both state dollars and federal dollars that flow through the Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program, through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, federal dollars. Not to be too political here, but HUD is a very important federal agency for developing and maintaining affordable and supportive housing here in New Jersey. And private lending, banks, foundations. That's why we're so happy that so many banks are members of SHA. And then the housing vouchers. These are what are used, whether they come through the federal government or through the state, to pay for housing expenses, the mortgage, rent, utilities, home maintenance. And the supports. One source of support is supportive housing services that comes through Medicaid. Medicaid has been a lot in the news a lot lately. Medicaid is an extremely important program to the state of New Jersey. We get a great deal of funding through that federal program, and we see how it's used directly in supportive housing. When you're going out to build a new construction project, in supportive housing projects, so we could go back and look at that first of the two examples I shared with you. The funding needs to be often blended together and stacked. So you would use tax credits coming through the low income housing tax credit program, money from one of our SHA's strong state partners, the Department of Community Affairs. There is National Housing Trust Fund money and Affordable Housing Trust Fund money. You may have seen, if you subscribe to any affordable, the newsletters or communication from any affordable housing advocacy groups in New Jersey. The governor gave his budget address yesterday, and it's very important that the Affordable Housing Trust Fund remains fully funded so that we can continue to use it to create supportive housing in the state. Home funds, that's a federal program that flows through the county. The Federal Home Loan Bank here in New Jersey, our Federal Home Loan Bank is the Federal Home Loan Bank of New York. They are a SHA member and a longtime SHA supporter. The New Jersey Housing and Mortgage Finance Agency, another SHA member and state partner. The Special Needs Housing Trust Fund, which has been critical to developing supportive housing in New Jersey, and other sources, community development, financial institutions, CDFIs. We are fortunate that we have many really strong CDFIs in New Jersey, and they are SHA members and banks. It's important to think about what fair market rents are when you think about how the rents are set for supportive housing. This is fair market rent data for New Jersey for all of the metropolitan areas, and you can see fair market rents are fairly high in New Jersey. We live in a very expensive state, and you can look for a one bedroom, fair market rent is about $1,400 a month. But then you get closer to New York City and Jersey City metro area, it's a little over 2,000. We have another bulletin on our website about rental assistance vouchers that specifically gets into this topic with a lot of good information about what vouchers are, how they work, and how they're connected to supportive housing. Housing vouchers are a supplement. They're designed so that an individual does not have to spend more than 30% of their income on rent. And then the voucher pays the balance of the rent directly to the property owner. The tenant pays no more than 30%, and the voucher is picking up the balance. Again, a good example, many vouchers flow through the Housing Choice Voucher Program in the federal government through HUD. And a great example of how federal dollars are being spent here in New Jersey. There are many types of vouchers. We have SHC vouchers here in the state. The Department of Human Services has the former HUD Section 8 program, which is the Housing Choice Voucher Program, and the SRAP program. the state rental assistance program. You may have seen for the month of January, most of the months of the January, the wait list in New Jersey was open for the SRAP program. The wait list opens, people have an opportunity to get on it, it closes, and then later on in the year, there will be a lottery for those programs. The demand, as you can imagine, to get on the waiting list was extremely high, the interest. And again, it just speaks to the housing affordability crisis in our state. What services are funded through Medicaid? So Medicaid funds the community care program. It pays for specific services that are needed so that individuals with IDD can live in the community. It's reserved really for people who require the most intensive levels of support to live independently, and it funds most licensed residential programs in New Jersey. We also have the supports program. Individual directed supports are accessed through the assistance of a support coordinator. And the Medicaid Managed Long-Term Services and Supports MLTSS program for people who are assessed to be medically eligible for these services. I'm going to pause here and I want to show this video about two individuals who share a home, and this is a housing model that works very well for them. So I'm going to show this video. I won't show the whole thing, but I want you to get a sense of what's in it. And then when I'm done with my presentation, I can certainly I can go back and share my screen. I can include the link so that folks can you can watch it, at your leisure. But I'm going to start here with this video.
Italians don't look for beauty.
If I can skip that.
They chase it.
Matthew has autism. Took a while to find that out. Well, there are 136 categories of developmental disabilities, and he's got a few of them. Matthew's mom, Linda, was sick and dying, and suddenly I had to care for everything. She had taken care of all of our matters, all house matters, and managed Matthew's life to a fairly well. She was really on the case. But then suddenly I had this responsibility on my hands. I called a support broker. I said, hey, we need more help. And she said, oh, I've got somebody, I think. Just placed her daughter in her own home, and Norman now needs a job and a place to live. I just decided that was the time to make the move and to find a place for Matthew and maybe me and sell that house. And they found his place. We made a deal, moved in, and it's worked out very, very well. They all slipped in here like into a nice glove. Everything was so smooth right from the first day. The place was operating at a deficit. I was using Matthew's, what little was in his trust to pay the balance. And I tried to economize and all, but we were just eating it up. It's too expensive. It's a nice place, but for one guy, it's too much. And we're very lucky to have friends who have a young man in a similar situation. You have two young men and two sets of parents, and both have had been this experience and in various degrees of letting go. And if we weren't really compatible, it'd be hard. It's like music. It all works so well.
Oh, Dan is a wonderful guy. He's full of energy and he makes people smile when he's in a good mood. And that's a lot of the time. He's also obsessive. He gets really stuck about everything happening in its place. At age 21, they were eligible to be moved into group homes, the most affected ones, the lowest functioning people. They gave him a chance to move into a group home. And we looked at a couple and they were okay, but I just wanted something that was more family-like if possible. Not too long after his name reached the top of the list, we heard that Tom's wife, who we knew was very ill, had passed away. And we met with Tom and we found out that, in fact, he had sold his house and he and Carmen and Matt had all moved to this condo. And he at the same time said, you know, I'm running a deficit every month paying for this empty room, and which I no longer live in. In a way, it's a lot simpler because, you know, one family owns the place and the other one is a renter. We've gotten a supported housing connection voucher through SHC and TDD together. So that's based on 1/3 of the agreed on maximum rent, market value rent for a place like this. This isn't a licensed group home, but it still had to meet, because of the subsidy voucher, it had to meet minimum living standards. Dan's now able to transit back and forth. He's gotten used to that routine too. And there are workers that come in for Matt and workers that come in for him. And, you know, they are become buddies to a certain extent, but Matt and Dan are really somewhat on a par, even though Matt has much more language. And so Matt asks the questions and Dan supplies the answers over and over and over again until finally Dan says, no more questions.
These life at ease with them is so simple to take care of them. I've grown to love them. It's not a job. I love them. I like what I do. I try to redirect him to learn how to speak more. Like he make phone calls to help him to learn how to communicate with us in the house. Besides them preparing their food, setting the tables, we also do chores. I teach them that the reason they doing it is because it's their home. We have ice cream shop, so they love that. You know, and the walks, the exercise. We also have a park. They always walk into the park. Play basketball. Matthew loves playing basketball.
The parents who couldn't imagine that this would be an option for them, could you give them any advice?
To try it. Just shop, look around. There are people like me out there that do care, that do love, and will love their children the same way. Everyone goes through up and down. Everyone. So does the guys. But it's not something drama. It's not something so big. It's very peaceful living with the guys. It works. It works. It really does. It really does. They happy. For me, they are.
Just getting back to my presentation. Hold on.
Take your time.
So I think that video shows a nice job of showing just one example of a housing opportunity that is available to families. So the Supportive Housing Association has a couple projects related, closely related to our work. One of them is the Integrated Community Project, which I started managing at Shaw in 2021. This is a project working to ensure that cities and towns in New Jersey are doing the best they can to ensure that people with disabilities and barriers are feeling involved and integrated in the day-to-day community life of where they live. We developed a self-assessment for cities and towns that we conducted with 26 municipalities, and we also have a toolkit for municipalities that's on our website. This project, we worked in 9 counties, 26 cities and towns, and most recently, we worked over the course of a year in Westfield, helping the town of Westfield in a project really truly co-led with people with disabilities and barriers. And we came up with 9 recommendations on how to make that city and town more integrated, because it's not, enough always or usually to have an affordable or supportive housing and apartment in a community. You also want to feel connected and involved where you live. Other resources on our housing hub include the HUD resource locator. You can look by geographic area to see what resources are out there around housing from HUD. And also there are some disability snapshots available through Rutgers that show you, really give a good snapshot statewide, countywide, or city by city, town by town of what the picture of disability looks like in the community, what types of disabilities, the ages, economic status, and other very important information. Here's a slide with more information about CLEP and how to contact all of the folks there. I'll pause here, Melanie, and then I can go to my slide for
Perfect.
questions.
Thanks, Kate. On this slide, you will see that we do at the Community Living Education Project, CLEP, we do have a newsletter that goes out frequently, and it shares resources of information sessions such as this one, as well as resources that agencies throughout the community are offering. So it's really a valuable tool for many families. So feel free to either use that link on your screen, which will be in the handouts that you're going to receive in a follow-up email, or take a quick snapshot of that QR code and feel free to sign up for our newsletter. You'll see on the screen the members of the CLEP team. Again, take a quick snapshot. Feel free to reach out to us for any support that we can provide as you are preparing to explore the various options in community living. And Kate, can you advance one slide? And this is going to be a QR code for today's post eval. It's information that you provide us that allows us to better serve the community moving forward. You'll also see the quick about 30-second post eval pop up on your screen as we say goodbye today. But before we get to that point, I know we have many questions coming in. And Kate, I'll let you get to your last slide so people have your contact.
Great. Thank you. Yes, here is my contact information. I will also put in the chat before we're done a link to our website and the Housing Hub, and I'm happy to take your questions. I will answer as many as I can. I certainly would not call myself an expert in the area of this specific population. I know quite a bit related to supportive housing, but if there are questions I can't answer, I will certainly make note of them and I will get back to Melanie with the answers. We're fortunate that we have in our membership, if I don't know the answer of our 110 members, I can pretty easily find someone who does. So I'm going to get out of this slide, but I will put my email address, our website in the chat, and then I'm happy to take questions.
Fabulous. And I'm just going to invite anyone from the CLEP team who is on this presentation. I know there are a few of us on today. Feel free to drop your contact in the chat section also. I believe Natalie Trump is on with us today, who would be a perfect contact for you all. And I'll do that also prior to saying goodbye today. Please know that we are going to try to get to as many questions as possible. I love the fact that Kate left about a half hour. I have a feeling we're going to need that, Kate. We have quite a few people on today's presentation, so I'm really excited to see that. But please understand that quite often a question will need about 10, 15, 20 follow-up questions for us to really give you a specific resource. We want to be able to help. So if we don't have the answers, again, right, we'll schedule a time to connect and we'll be able to help you more on an individual basis if needed. So
and what I'm doing now is I'm just putting some of our most commonly requested or most useful housing resources from the hub in the guide. So depending on the questions, I may, refer people to the chat and these resources.
Fabulous. So Kate, the first question that we see in the Q&A section is there a spot on your website that shows a list of all group homes by county in New Jersey?
No, we do not have that on our website. So no, we don't have that. What we do tend to publicize more, and I will add this to the link now, is we have a weekly newsletter that goes out, our share newsletter, and in that we post when there are affordable housing openings, when wait lists open up or new housing has been developed. And then we do have some members serve as an example of a member that organization that does this. If they have openings they're looking to fill, they will let us know and we will publicize that. But we don't have that type of directory. But I'm going to put the link in that folks can use to sign up for our weekly share newsletter, which people often do find to be helpful.
I'm on that newsletter. I will say it's fabulous. So I would encourage everyone to register if you could.
Yes, and anyone can sign up. You don't need to be a member to receive the newsletter.
Perfect. And if, just to clarify, if by the term group home, if you mean a DDD provider managed setting, please know that we would encourage you to go to your support coordinator to find out more details about those opportunities. And specifically, if you are looking at a provider managed setting within DDD for residential supports, and by residential supports, I mean, right, that residential opportunity itself, you would need to be eligible for the community care program, also known as the CCP. So that is something to consider. But again, there's a lot of options out there, whether you're on the supports program or the community care program. So definitely reach out to your support coordinator and feel free to reach out to the club team. We can provide you more individual guidance on what that might look like and some additional resources. The next question is, I have a condo and when I pass, the property will go into trust for my daughter. Any suggestions for her long-term care? Can she stay in place? And what are her options if she is in need of 24-hour care?
That I do not know the answer to, but I can check on that and get back to you.
Perfect. And again, not to be a broken record, but reach out to the club team. We can provide you with some information along that topic. And we quite often loop someone's support coordinator into those conversations also. The club team, we're a small but mighty team, we say, but a majority of us have lived experience as family members navigating different residential options for our adult sons or daughter. And we also have past support coordinator, supervisor on our team. So sort of a nice full circle kind of support that we can offer some information around, but we'll point you in the right direction for that. Let's see. I am a guardian of an individual with an intellectual developmental disability who receives a supportive housing connection voucher. Will this subsidy follow him if he moves? Is he eligible for more than one type of voucher? I'm going to finish the whole question and then we'll break it down, Kate. How do we find out about other subsidies and how do we know when to apply for other vouchers and if he is eligible for other assistance? So that question is in a Q&A section. I don't know if it's easier for you to look at, Kate, or if you want me to break it down.
Which one? My
It's
son.
at 12:20, the question came in. First name is Eve. And it starts with I am a guardian.
Should I be looking at the Q&A and not?
Yes, I
Sorry,
apologize.
I'm looking at this.
No, I apologize.
Okay.
And it starts with I am a guardian at 12:20.
All right. That is a good question about, again, I think a housing, a housing navigator or a support broker would know that, but I will find out about that one. I'm assuming the subsidy will, but I don't want to give false information. I'm just writing that down. How to find out about other subsidies, a really good source for that is if you look in the chat, it's in our housing hub, this is what I call the housing guide. I can share my screen so you can see what it looks like. The housing guide, I'm going to show two resources in the housing hub. If you're in the housing hub, this guide does a really good job with that. And then also in the housing hub, we have a resource bulletin on rental assistance. So those are two great resources for finding more about vouchers and subsidies. And then I would talk to your support broker about, when would be the time to apply. My instinct is that the sooner the better. There are wait lists for all these programs and you can get on multiple wait lists. So it's always good to get a name on there, even if the situation changes and you no longer need it. That's a good problem to have, right? And you would be able to find out through our housing resource guide and our bulletin what might be eligible, what they might be eligible for.
And I know that the individual asking this question was interested to see, I believe, and asked if that the supportive housing connection voucher will follow that individual if they move. Please know that that depends, right? So if you're talking about moving from one county to another county in the state of New Jersey, right, that's something that you would definitely want to connect with. The supportive housing connection department, just to work through that process. But if you're moving out of state, that is a New Jersey, okay, what's the appropriate word? A New Jersey support that's offered. Is that more appropriate to say?
Yes,
So
yep,
the
no,
New
that makes-
Jersey,
doing a very
yes.
good job of explaining it. Yes.
yes, the New Jersey supportive housing connection is not going to move out of state with you, but Kate, there are, right, vouchers that will move out of state. Is that correct?
Out of state, that I don't know. That I don't know.
So let's see. Can we please review the ways that a person can access supportive housing? There are housing vouchers, rental assistance, Section 8, and I apologize, Kate, Section 8, can that move out of state depending on the Section 8 funding?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Housing choice voucher, I think that needs to stay in the state.
So,
But
could
I
you-
will check on that answer and get back to you.
perfect. Could you please review the ways that a person can access supportive housing?
So a really good resource to think about how to access supportive housing is our housing guide. I'm going to open it up and see exactly where the page is, and I can show you where to go for that information. So in our housing guide, because there are many different funding sources, right? And so there's different ways to access different programs, but you can see here we've got a whole page on navigating the system, and then we go through all of the housing options with innovative supports program by program, and this will really walk you through that. Finding affordable housing. And then I want to show one other resource that I think will be of interest to you too. It sort of is like an update to this guide, and it has find resource bulletins, affordable housing rental assistance. Yeah, here, this is what I wanted to show. This is the resource bulletin on rental assistance. How do you apply for a DD voucher? What other housing vouchers are available in New Jersey? It explains what the different voucher types are. It goes through the SREP program, which I mentioned. And so this is, and gives you websites for further information. So this, I'll put a link to this resource in the chat too. This is a really great resource and you can have it all right at your fingertips.
In a shared housing situation, what happens if the live-in caregiver is sick or needs a vacation or day off?
I do not know the answer to that question, but I can ask and find out.
Right, and it depends on the individual's situation. Different people need different levels of support, right? Sometimes that might be families working together to support that individual. Maybe it's having extra people on your support team to start filling in for those, opportunities. But that is actually a great question, right? We need to plan ahead to make sure that those situations are covered as someone is choosing to go along this journey, to make sure the right supports are in place. And so often, right, we're talking about hired supports. We need to start again talking about natural supports in someone's lives, right? Does that person have a neighbor that they are connected with, right? Can a neighbor pop in and help prepare a meal or get someone to work if someone else calls out? That support's going to look different for each person, but we always encourage individuals to sort of build a team of natural supports around them, as well as having those paid supports available to them as well. How do you find a compatible roommate? So I guess we're going to use housemate for this conversation. And what are some qualities that will indicate that two individuals will get along?
That I really can't speak to. I mean, I think that video, what I learned from, the folks I met who are in that video and from watching it is they both have, strong support systems within their families. And I also give a lot of credit to the support provider who's living with them and the role that that individual plays. But, it's sort of like any of us, right? We're no different whether we have a disability or not. It sometimes takes a little bit of matching to know, whether it's in a college dorm situation or people sharing housing, as they have their first jobs, or in a situation where two people with disabilities are living together. They sort of have to match. I hope that is helpful.
No, absolutely. And I think, right, I think the first step for that would be to consider compatibility, right? One,
Yes.
do the individuals know each other? Do they have similar interests? Do they enjoy doing the same activities?
Yes.
Do they enjoy their environment to be arranged the same way, right? And not just physically, but the noise in their environment. Is someone super talkative and the other person really enjoys their peace and quiet most of the time? Might not be compatible, but maybe, right? And I think quite often it's spending time together prior to making that decision that will also hopefully add to that decision making to see if it's the right fit for both individuals living together.
Yeah, I think the video that I showed certainly made it, we didn't see all the work that went into ahead of time, right? The families had a plan and that worked, but I'm sure the folks who live there they got together a few times too. So very good example.
Right. And I think also for the families to work together if the families are involved, right? Not everyone's family is involved in someone's life who is going for a supportive housing opportunity. So if families are involved, making sure that those families are connecting and helping the individual navigate that process. If that individual chooses to have them support them in that process is really important to see what they're comfortable with.
Absolutely. And I know there's been a lot of questions about vouchers, so I do just want to go back to that. And I can't stress enough how, if you're applying for a housing choice voucher, you can apply really to get on the waiting list for as many in as many communities as you'd like. So if it's a city or town where you'd like to live or have a voucher from that community, you can apply in multiple places at the same time. And I was just looking up, there are federal housing choice vouchers that are portable. And I know, we live in an area in New Jersey. We're close to a lot of other neighboring states, New York, Pennsylvania. So there is some portability there. I think sometimes though you have to use that voucher for 1 year in the state or jurisdiction where it's issued, and then you would have some portability.
Thank you. So we have a question coming in. Is there a distinction between a subsidy and a voucher? And if so, can you explain what that difference is so that this person can use them appropriately when discussing?
I use them sort of interchangeably in this presentation. It's the same thing. But again, whether a funding source is calling it a subsidy or calling it a voucher, you can be on multiple waiting lists for subsidies and or vouchers. But it's the subsidy, I think the subsidy is a better definition of it, right? That's what makes it affordable, but you're getting, the voucher is kind of the vehicle for the subsidy.
This is a great question. I love this. If a person has an affordable apartment, can he also utilize utility? Can he also utilize a voucher as well? Often, right, a voucher is going to help with the affordable apartment. But I apologize. I read that question a different way initially. So I'm going to just throw that question out to you now, the way I read it before. That was a great question. But can you talk about utilizing utility assistance when you're in an affordable home?
I'm not an expert on utility assistance, but we are fortunate in the state of New Jersey that there are many utility assistance programs. And the idea is, I believe, that they can be used in hand with vouchers and or a subsidy, so that your rent is making the apartment, the housing affordable, and the utility assistance can help make the utilities and keep that cost down as well. So I can certainly get more information about that and get that back to Melanie. Not to keep pushing our shared newsletter, but when there is news or information about changes or new programs in the area, we try to publicize as well, because we know it's directly, being able to afford utilities is directly connected to housing affordability.
Great. And if someone does have a question in that area, please, again, feel free to reach out to CLEP. We do have someone on our team who I believe Kate went through the Housing Navigator program through the Supportive Housing Association. So we can definitely get you some resources in that area if that is something that someone is interested in or would find helpful. Let's see. In the Matt and Dan video on shared living, was the woman speaking, and it's quoted, shared by the two individuals' budgets?
I believe so, yes. Yep.
I just want to clarify that a parent can own an apartment and rent to their adult child using the DDD housing subsidy.
I believe so, yes, but I can confirm that.
So I was under the understanding that that there is a barrier there if a family member owns the apartment. But again, Kate will get clarity on.
Oh, I misunderstood. I'm thinking about in our example, the tenant.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So yeah, so this would be a parent who would own the apartment and rent to the individual using the housing subsidy.
Yeah, I think there is a barrier from having your own child rent to you. I think in the example we were watching, the owner's child was not using the subsidy. They were using the funding, the money coming in through the roommate to help, subsidize the housing, I believe. But I can check on that and get back to you.
The rentals in our area are above the DDD rental limits. So I'm assuming that they're referencing the fair market value. Our son wants to live close to us. What are our options?
I will have to get back to you on that one. But that is a very common problem in New Jersey because the rents are just so very high. But I will make a note of that and get back to you.
And I think also, right, looking for those rental options in various ways is really helpful, right? You can go through Zillow, you can use a realtor. A lot of times, rentals may not all be publicly posted. So using a realtor might actually be a nice, complement to maybe finding something in the fair market value. Letting your friends and neighbors know also, right? So often they'll hear about, opportunities, maybe someone's neighbor, right? Maybe they live in a condo and someone's neighbor is going to be moving out, but, there's benefits, right? There's some guarantee and confidence that someone's getting paid, when they are using these supports and services, right? Where other systems might not be as reliable. So if something, be creative when you're exploring opportunities, also. So
Yeah, I think you make a really good point, and that's when we hear of folks, family members who find success, it is sort of thinking outside the box and really networking. And if you know of folks who've had success in your area of finding a rent that's affordable for their child, network with them, because maybe there's a landlord who sees, as Melanie was saying, sees the benefit of having this guaranteed income source that has services and support attached to it.
absolutely. And I do not access support brokerage for my son. My son lives in a provider managed setting, so support brokerage is not available to us. But you may want to connect with your support coordinator. And that is a service that you can have through someone's budget, and see if possibly that is a service that a support broker can help you identify housing opportunities. Worth asking, right? So let's see, what is the best way to find housing which meets the maximum guidelines? I think that sort of was just covered with what we were speaking about. Are there any forums similar to dating apps where you might get together with families who are looking for others who could commingle? Is there a site where there might be available housing slots?
That is a very good question. I am not aware of one, but certainly sounds like a great resource to develop.
And please, anyone in attendance today, feel free. If you know a resource, just drop it in the chat section, share. So please, again, feel free. It's so often as family members, right, individuals, professionals, we're learning from each other. So we encourage you to share any resources that you may know of in the chat section for everyone else to benefit from.
And I think too, that's where housing navigators can help, right? Reaching out to a housing navigator who's working in your area might be really helpful.
Absolutely. And we can all ask them, right? Ask if that's something that they'll be able to provide you. Let them know exactly what you're looking for. Some counties in New Jersey determine fair market value by zip code, and some determine by county. Is there any effort being made to have all counties in New Jersey determine fair market value by zip code?
Not that I'm aware of, but this is it is an issue, but no, not that I'm aware of.
As someone who is looking to move to another location, is there anyone that I can have a conversation with in regards to setting up accommodations, moving to another apartment as a renter? Again, I'm looking to speak to a person so that I can get some advice on that whole process to avoid any legal pitfalls that I might encounter.
So if you're looking for legal advice in this area, the Community Health Law Project might be a good resource to reach out to. They're a SHA member, and I can put their information in the chat.
Perfect. And again, anyone from CLEP, if you're on, feel free to drop our contact in there. If the individual wants to reach out to us, we could also find some additional guidance or resources for you to connect to. So Nat, if you're on, put that contact in the chat section for everyone. It says, I live in a low income housing with my son. Can he remain in a rental apartment at home and receive supports when I am gone? I have no trust fund, but he is on a CCP. he can't purchase anything, and he is not able to manage finances. Is there support for him to live with support in his existing affordable housing?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if the lease is able to be transferred, right? And the voucher, but that's a good question. I will look into it.
See, I see we only got a couple minutes left. I came across year-long wait list for apartments that won't accept any applications. How do we navigate long wait lists? It seems daunting and hopeless for some of our members hearing the wait list times.
I hear you. I mean, this is it really speaks to the ongoing housing affordability crisis in New Jersey and why it is so important that more affordable housing is funded and developed. Um, my only advice is, wait lists do open, and the wait lists do move. And so getting on multiple lists and keeping your contact information updated on that list. So when they open and they do move, you can be reached out to is the best advice that I can give. But it's incredibly frustrating, and I'm certainly very sympathetic.
Can you talk, and you may have addressed this when I was responding to some of the questions earlier. Did you talk specifically about the Affordable Housing New Jersey and submitting an application through Affordable Housing New Jersey, or is it Piazza and Associates?
I'm not familiar with what Affordable Housing New Jersey is.
Okay. I'll try to find.
I mean, Piazza Associates, it's because they manage the wait lists of a lot of affordable housing in New Jersey. I will say we get notices from them whenever that we're one of the organizations that Piazza Associates reaches out to when there are new affordable housing is coming online. And for folks who sign up from our share newsletter, we post those openings whenever they are available. So
Perfect. I see someone's asking for us to share a list of support brokers, housing navigators. Support brokers, you can definitely get those resources from your support coordinator directly.
and the housing navigators, I'm going to put that link in the chat.
Perfect, thank you. And then we see Walter, thank you. He did put some information about this Section 8 being transferable in the chat section, so we see that. Can you also recommend financial resources to help pay for the cost? So I think we would need to know what cost you're referencing. So Danielle, if you have any more details to follow up for that question for us to answer, please feel free to put that in the chat now before we say goodbye. Got a lot of compliments coming in, Kate, for the information that you shared. Let's see. Can you talk a little bit about the difference between a Section 8 voucher and a support versus a voucher for a disability? The question is stating.
So the Section 8 housing program, the former Section 8 housing program, now known as the Housing Choice Voucher Program, is a federal program. We have departments and divisions in New Jersey, including GDD. We have programs with vouchers specifically for populations for disability that are state programs. So those would be separate state waiting lists, and that are different than the housing voucher. I mean, and at the end of the day, what a voucher does is it makes the housing affordable, but some are through state programs for specific populations, such as people with disabilities, and some are through federal programs. So I had put in the chat the link to our resource bulletin about rental assistance, and that I think that does a pretty nice job of explaining what DDD vouchers are. To receive that subsidy, a person must be eligible for DD services, have active Medicaid, have a current NJCAT assessment. A supportive housing choice, an SHC housing voucher provides rental assistance only and does not provide funding for services and supports. A support coordinator could help an individual identify whether the budget can purchase sufficient supports to live in more independent living before a request for housing assistance is made. To be considered for an SHC housing voucher, an individual must have an assigned support coordinator. So we go into details about that, about other housing vouchers available in New Jersey and what are housing choice vouchers. Those are all very good questions. It certainly is confusing, the variety of options that are out there, but I think it's really important to learn about what all the different options are and to think about what might work best for you or your loved one.
And again, I'm just going to quickly share a couple of our club contacts. Actually, Kate, is it possible to just put our contact screen back up? I think it was like the
Yes.
third to last slide, as well as your last slide, as we're preparing to say goodbye. And I do apologize. I know we did not get to a large portion of the questions that were being asked today. So we will do our best to assist you on a more individual basis. So if you would, again, feel free to take a quick, screenshot of the contacts on your screen. This is for the Community Living Education Projects contacts. My supervisor, Natalie Trump, is at the top of that list. Her number is 732-673-7005. Again, my name is Melanie McGackin. My number is 732-718-0572. If there's any resources that we can provide you directly, would love to see how we can help families in any way as they are preparing to explore residential options within their community. Again, both in self-direction and provider managed settings. And then, Kate, can you just forward 2 slides to your contact one more time in case people have specific questions? And here is Kate's contact. So feel free to take that down if you have specific questions for the Supportive Housing Association of New Jersey. Again, we will be able to assist you in a greater way on a one-to-one basis. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Kate, thank you so much for taking the time to share your expertise with all of us, the valuable resources, and just sharing the stories of the possibilities of community living. Greatly appreciated. And on behalf of the Community Living Education Project, the CLEP team, we thank you for joining us. As we prepare to say goodbye, you're going to see a quick survey pop on your screen. Again, if you'll take that a few seconds just to complete that, we would love to be able to assist you in any way moving forward. So have a great day, everyone. Enjoy the weather today, and please be well.
Bye.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Kate.
everybody.
Bye.